Scholars on the Nile, The Life, History, Religion, and Literature of the Ancient Egyptians by E. A. Wallis Budge continues Chapter 6, Egyptian Writing, Hieroglyphic, Hieratic, Demotic, and Coptic. And bear with me because I'm trying to correct the pronunciation as I go. Mach. Ruit. Ra. Yint. Granite doors and post to bring of. Mach. Sadna. Mar. Confer. Granite. I sailed down the river at once to Knefer Pyramid. Ma usk. Sasaat. In the barges. 6. And lighters. 6. And uya, ua, yen, 6. Boats of 8, 3, boats 1, never. Rot! Yurt, yibhat, Oxbu. Before had visited Apat and Elephantine. Now uya, ua, her, hau, Nesunub, a ship with an armed guard in the time of any king. You, Yurne, Hasust, Ratu, Harut, not true. I've done the behest of men and the will of powers. Harus, you, da, ne. Tau, na. Hakarwur. Because of it, I have given bread to the hungry. Sasa, na. Yet, you. Shas, nye. Her. I have satisfied the indigent. I have followed the personification. Ma, preth, yen. Re, ma. In its house, not did I make a great my mouth against. Shinitu, yen. Pet, ma. Memtia. Superior officers, there is no stretch in my stride. Shemeh Resa Xnd Yur Nye Ma Mat A. Walking according to measure, I've worked according to law. Mranasuten Rex Kwo Ntet Utuneth Beloved by the king, I understand what is commanded. Set, Rusnia, Hre, Yiskia, Rasak'a, Ba'u. Hiet, I watch at seat my to exalt his will. Dwaranya, Dwaf, Hru Nub, Radanya, Yibia, Kntya. I sung his praises every day, and I made my mind to be ready. Yin Ma Ye Hre Shanf. For his word, not did I hesitate about what he determined. Xre Yit Na Matrit Na Madit Mud Mut eat. Okay, yeah. With reference to myself, I laid hold on uprightness and justice. Tahnia Sunsunnen Hre Grr Babab. I grasped. I had to keep silence, refreshed. Hasnu Hasnuyi Hasnuya Nub Hre Manaks. Your man favored me, my lord. For my ability he saw root we yun yibye succinct u yist. Vigorous of my hands, lo, my heart made to advance my position. And I'm going to give you a good view of the whole text before I pass on to easier matters to listen to and easier matters to present as well. This text was written before my grandmother was born, so it's perfectly fine. I mean, patient format. I'm just being quick about that. So, the decipherment of Egyptian hieroglyphs was effected by two men, Thomas Young and J.F. Champollion, in the first quarter of the 19th century, though the discovery of the Rosetta Stone, now in the British Museum, and the famous obelisk at Philae, now at Kingston Hall in Dorsetshire. There's something like that in terms that connects the whole cuneiform thing, but I can't think of the monument. The Rosetta Stone's what we all know about, right? The Rosetta Stone is inscribed in two forms of Egyptian writing, hieroglyphic and Demotic, and in Greek, with the decree of the priest of all Egypt assembled at Memphis in the 9th year of Ptolemy V, king of Egypt, 196 BCE. The obelisk at Philae is inscribed with the petition of the priest of Philae addressed Ptolemy the Ninth, and to Cleopatra, his wife, and Cleopatra, his sister. On each of the four sides of the shaft of the obelisk is a hieroglyphic inscription giving the titles of the king and mentioning his wife Cleopatra. On the pedestal are the petitions of the priest and Ptolemy's answer to them, written in Greek Thus, the inscription on the Rosetta Stone and obelisk of Philae are two bilingual Egyptian and Greek documents. The Greek inscriptions on each monument were read without any great difficulty because Greek was a known language. Then scholars set to work to try and decipher the Egyptian inscriptions in the unknown language. Many attempts had been made to decipher the Egyptian hieroglyphs, but none was successful until Young began to work at them. It was well known that the hieroglyphic inscriptions available for study in Europe, that groups of hieroglyphs were enclosed in ovals, usually with that bar right next to it, right? Hence the cartouche title, and Jorgen Zoega, the Dane, 1755 to 1809, guessed that such ovals contained royal names. The Greek text of the Rosetta Stone mentions King Ptolemy, and Young assumed that the Egyptian text would do the same, and if it did, the name would be written in phonetic or alphabetic characters, whichever happened to be the case, of course. In fact, he was the first to grasp the idea of the existence of a phonetic principle in Egyptian writing. He adopted Zweig's guess that the oval, now called cartouche, contained the name of Ptolemy, and with the help of a cartouche of Cleopatra on the Philae obelisk, succeeded in proving it did. And that was the beginning of a royal name, and a cartouche was always at the rounded end of it, and also identified the name of Bernice from another monument and obtained the correct phonetic values of several of the hieroglyphs. Thus, before 1818, he had deciphered two royal names, and Mr. Banks had identified the name of Cleopatra also. Now, there's a Sufi who did much better than that, but I don't remember his name. But part of it was that he was learning some of the tradition that survived among the Copts. But the Rosetta Stone on its bilingual inscription in two forms of Egyptian writing, hieroglyphic at the top, Demotic, and then the Greek, containing a copy of the decreed promulgation by the entire priesthood of Egypt assembled at Memphis, 109 BCE, directing that special honors be paid to Ptolemy V. Epiphanius, okay. Egyptian decipherment was only one of the many abstruse subjects that occupied Young's mind and energies, and after the publication in 1818 of his great article in the Encyclopaedia Britannica, he practically dropped the matter. Meanwhile, J.F. Champollion in France had been working at the subject and adopting Young's method and some of its values. Unfortunately, without acknowledgement, he drew up an alphabet from the names of the Roman emperors and formulated the system of decipherment, which has been in part adopted by later Egyptologists. He found a wise and learned helper in his brother, Champollion Hieratic, who collected his notes and papers and edited his dictionnaire. Abscissus investigated it very carefully, Champollion's system, in 1835, and was due to his report on it that its fundamental features were accepted by scholars generally. Champollion, to the deep regret of the learned world in Europe, died 1832, but the splendid work which he had begun was carried on and developed by Birch, Hanks, and Goodwin in England, by Lepsius and Henrik Brugsch in Germany, and by E.D. Rogue Chabas in France. He who wishes to know the true facts about the part that Young took in the decipherment of Egyptian hieroglyphs should read the third volume of the works of Thomas Young by Leitch, with his life by Dean Peacock, London, 1855. The method followed by Young and Champollion in the construction of the Egyptian alphabet is described in a quarto pamphlet entitled The Rosetta Stone, published by the British Museum, price 6d. This little work contains a good reproduction of the inscriptions on the stone in colotype. For a fuller account, see my Mummy, Cambridge, 1925. Coptic is the name given to the form of writing which seems was first used to a great extent by the Copts or the Egyptian Christians. In writing their translations of the various books of the Old and New Testaments from the Greek into the Egyptian language, The Egyptian man was called by the Arab Qibli. Oh yeah, I would have never guessed the correct spelling. R. Qibli, whence the name Copt, and the appellation was derived from the Greek name for the Egyptians, Aegyptios. To the Copts, Qibli was the Egyptian Christian who had embraced the monophysite form of Christianity, as opposed to the Melkite or royalist who accepted the ruling of the Council of Chalcedon. But the epithet was probably applied by the Semites to every indigenous Egyptian long before Christianity was introduced into Egypt in the 1st century of our era. The language by the or Copt was called by the Arabs Qibli. Yeah, I gotta really hard word, but maybe Egyptian was a difficult language, so that was where it got that from. Some of the papyrus manuscripts containing copies of the books of the Bible are certainly as old as the beginning of the 4th century and probably are a century older, and there is every reason to think that they were copied from manuscripts in Upper Egypt at the beginning of our era. It seems that the Demotic script was in general use in Egypt, but the Egyptian Christians decided to adopt the Greek alphabet, and all the Coptic translations of the scriptures that have come down to us are written with Greek uncials. There were, however, some sounds in the Egyptian language that could not be expressed by any letter in the Greek alphabet, and the Copts added to it a modified form of the hieroglyphs that represented them. The additions are, okay, you got the Ksha, and you got the, but anyways, I don't quite remember how to read all of Coptic at this point, but I'm going to try after giving you the translation. The following is Coptic version of Matthew 6, 19, and 21 in the dialect of Upper Egypt. 19. Do not gather for you in the treasure upon the earth the place in which are wont the rust and the moth to destroy in it, and the place where are wont the thieves to dig into it to steal. 21. The place for wherein thy treasure shall be in it, shall be there thy heart also. Now, let me point out something that, if you don't know, in the Bible, sometimes whole chapters were added, the Christian section in particular. Sometimes verses were put in the middle. In the Greek version of the New Testament, there's over 10,000 variations. And it's not like the variants in the Quran where you have dialectical things and you never end up with any contradictions. I mean, you're having whole different things, an average of 7 unique, if there's 1,500 documents, that's just like 6 or 7 or so unique things on average per document. But Merper so uwa okay, no, I see letters that I don't even have a clue, so I'm just going to show you it, and if you know how to read Coptic, you're just going to have to do it for yourself.